What if one of ancient Egypt's greatest secrets was never hidden inside a pyramid? What if the most powerful knowledge wasn't buried beneath the sand, but guarded inside sacred temples where only a chosen few could enter? For thousands of years, priests protected a set of rituals so mysterious that even today historians cannot fully explain them. These were the Osirian Mysteries, ancient ceremonies dedicated to Osiris, the god of death, resurrection, and eternal life. But why were these rituals kept secret? What were initiates shown behind closed temple doors? And what truth did Egyptian priests believe was too powerful for ordinary people to know? Tonight, we uncover one of the greatest mysteries of ancient Egypt. To understand the Osirian Mysteries, we must first understand Osiris himself. According to Egyptian mythology, Osiris was once a wise and benevolent king. He taught humanity agriculture. He established laws. He brought civilization to the world. Under his rule, Egypt prospered, but his success created jealousy. His brother Set desired power. Determined to seize the throne, Set devised a deadly plan. During a royal banquet, Set presented a magnificent chest crafted from precious wood and gold. He announced that whoever fit perfectly inside could keep it. One by one, guests attempted. None succeeded. Then Osiris entered the chest. Instantly, Set's followers slammed the lid shut. The chest was sealed and thrown into the Nile. The beloved king was gone. Also, everyone believed. Osiris's wife, Isis, refused to accept his fate. She searched across Egypt for his body. After a long journey, she found him, but Set discovered the body once again. This time he cut Osiris into pieces and scattered them throughout the land. It seemed impossible that Osiris could ever return. Yet Isis persisted. Using powerful magic, she recovered the scattered pieces. Through sacred rituals, she restored Osiris, not as a mortal king, but as something greater. Osiris became ruler of the underworld, the judge of souls, the first being to conquer death itself. To modern audiences, this may sound like mythology, but to the ancient Egyptians, it represented something far deeper. It was a promise that death was not the end. If Osiris could overcome death, perhaps humans could too. This belief transformed Egyptian civilization. It shaped religion. It influenced architecture. And it inspired the creation of the Osirian Mysteries. These mysteries were not ordinary religious ceremonies. They were sacred initiations, special rites designed to reveal deeper truths about life, death, and eternity. Most Egyptians worshipped Osiris publicly, but only selected individuals gained access to the inner teachings. The priests believed certain knowledge had to be experienced rather than explained. Because of this, much of the ritual remained secret. Ancient inscriptions suggest that initiates participated in ceremonies symbolizing the death and resurrection of Osiris. Some scholars believe participants traveled through dark temple chambers representing the underworld. Others suggest elaborate sacred dramas recreated the story of Osiris before a select audience. The exact details remain unknown. The priests protected their secrets well. One of the most important centers of Osiris worship was Abydos. This ancient city became one of the holiest locations in Egypt. Pilgrims traveled hundreds of miles simply to visit its temples. Many hoped to be buried nearby. They believed closeness to Osiris increased their chances of eternal life. Each year, huge festivals honored the god. Processions filled the streets. Priests carried sacred images through crowds. Offerings were made. Prayers echoed from temple walls. Yet the deepest rituals occurred away from public view, behind closed doors, inside sacred chambers, far from ordinary eyes. There, initiates encountered teachings that were believed to prepare them for eternity. The Egyptians viewed death differently from many cultures. To them, death was not destruction. It was transition, a doorway into another existence. The Osirian Mysteries helped people prepare for that journey. The ceremonies taught that every soul would eventually stand before Osiris. Every action taken during life would be judged. Every choice would matter. For believers, the mysteries offered something incredibly powerful. Hope. Hope that justice existed beyond the grave. Hope that death could be overcome. Hope that eternity awaited those who followed the proper path. Over time, the reputation of the Osirian Mysteries spread beyond Egypt. Foreign travelers heard stories of hidden rituals and sacred knowledge. Greek visitors became fascinated by Egyptian religion. Some described secret ceremonies unlike anything they had seen elsewhere in the ancient world. The mysteries gained an almost legendary status. Yet despite centuries of study, much remains unknown. The priests intentionally left few detailed records. And when ancient Egypt eventually fell, much of that knowledge disappeared with it. But clues remain. Temple inscriptions, ancient texts, buried artifacts, fragments of a tradition that once captivated an entire civilization. Imagine entering a temple where only a handful of people were allowed to go. The massive stone doors close behind you. Torches flicker against walls covered in sacred symbols. Priests dressed in white linen stand silently in the shadows. And somewhere deep within the temple, a ritual is about to begin. A ritual that promises to reveal the secrets of life, death, and eternity. This was the world of the Osirian Mysteries, and very few were ever allowed inside. By the height of ancient Egypt civilization, Osiris had become one of the most beloved gods in the kingdom. Unlike gods associated with war or power, Osiris represented something every human cared about. What happens after death? The Egyptians believed that death was only the beginning of a much longer journey. The body might die, but the soul lived on, and if the soul was properly prepared, it could achieve eternal life. This belief made the worship of Osiris incredibly important. Temples dedicated to him appeared throughout Egypt, but no place was more sacred than Abydos. Located along the Nile, Abydos became the spiritual center of Osiris worship. For centuries, pilgrims traveled there from every corner of Egypt. Some spent months making the journey. Others saved money their entire lives just to visit once. To stand where Osiris was believed to have been honored was considered a blessing. Every year, massive religious festivals took place at Abydos. Crowds filled the streets. Music echoed through the city. Priests carried sacred statues during elaborate processions. Thousands gathered to witness the public ceremonies. Yet these public events were only part of the story. Behind the temple walls existed another world, a hidden world known only to priests and initiates. Ancient inscriptions suggest that selected individuals participated in secret rites designed to recreate the journey of Osiris himself. The initiate symbolically followed the path of the god, his death, his descent into darkness, and ultimately his resurrection. Many historians believe the ceremonies took place inside specially designed temple chambers. These rooms may have represented different stages of the underworld. As initiates moved deeper into the complex, they symbolically traveled farther into the realm of the dead. Each chamber carried its own meaning. Each ritual represented another step towards spiritual transformation. Darkness played an important role. To the Egyptians, darkness was not simply the absence of light. It represented the unknown, the mysterious realm beyond death. By passing through darkness, initiates experience a symbolic version of the soul's journey into the afterlife. Then came the promise of rebirth. Just as Osiris returned transformed, the initiate hoped to emerge spiritually renewed. This idea became the heart of the mysteries. Death was not the end. It was a transition, a doorway to something greater. One of the most important symbols used during these ceremonies was a jed pillar. This ancient symbol represented stability and resurrection. Many Egyptians associated it with the backbone of Osiris himself. During major festivals, priests performed the raising of the jed, a sacred ritual symbolizing the restoration of Osiris and the triumph of life over death. For those witnessing the ceremony, the message was clear. Life always returns. Order always defeats chaos. And death never has a final word. The mysteries also focus heavily on sacred knowledge. Egyptians believed the afterlife was filled with challenges. The soul would encounter gates guarded by supernatural beings. It would face dangerous trials. And eventually, it would stand before Osiris in judgment. To survive this journey, preparation was essential. This is why Egyptian tombs often contain sacred texts. These writings included prayers, magical formulas, and instructions intended to guide the deceased through the underworld. Initiates of the Osirian Mysteries may have received deeper explanations of these teachings, knowledge believed to help them navigate eternity itself. Another fascinating aspect of the mysteries involves sacred drama. Many scholars believe priests performed elaborate reenactments of the Osiris myth. Participants witnessed the betrayal by Seth, the grief of Isis, the search for the scattered body, and the miraculous resurrection of Osiris. To modern eyes, it may seem like a theatrical performance, but to the Egyptians, it was much more. It was a living ritual, a sacred event connecting human beings directly with divine reality. The boundary between myth and religion disappeared. The initiate was not merely observing the story. They were becoming part of it. This powerful experience explains why the mysteries remained popular for centuries. Kings respected them, priests protected them, and ordinary Egyptians longed to participate. The mysteries offered something no earthly treasure could provide: hope beyond death. Yet despite their importance, many details remain hidden. The priests deliberately protected their secrets. Knowledge was passed orally from one generation to the next. When the temples eventually closed, much of that knowledge vanished forever. But enough clues remained to reveal one important truth. The Osirian Mysteries were never simply about worshipping a god. They were about transformation, about preparing the soul for eternity, and about understanding humanity's place within the cosmic order. What if the greatest secret of the Osirian Mysteries wasn't hidden in a tomb, or buried beneath a temple, but hidden within the human soul itself? For thousands of years, initiates entered sacred temples seeking answers to humanity's oldest questions. Why are we here? What happens after death? And can the soul truly become immortal? According to the priests of Osiris, the answers were waiting, but only for those willing to undergo the journey. At the heart of the Osirian Mysteries was a belief that separated ancient Egypt from many other civilizations. The Egyptians believed that human beings were far more than physical bodies. A person consisted of multiple spiritual elements. The most important were the Ka, the Ba, and the Ark. The Ka was a life force, the energy that animated the body. The Ba represented personality, memory, and identity. It was often depicted as a bird with a human head capable of traveling between worlds. Then there was the Ark, the transformed spirit, the perfected soul, the ultimate goal of every Egyptian. The Osirian Mysteries focus on helping initiates understand this transformation, because according to Egyptian belief, immortality was not automatic. It had to be earned. The soul needed preparation, knowledge, and spiritual purification. One of the most important teachings involved Ma'at, the concept of truth, balance, justice, and cosmic order. The Egyptians believed the entire universe depended upon Ma'at. The stars followed it. The Nile flowed according to it. Even the gods respected it. To live against Ma'at was to create chaos. To live with Ma'at was to live in harmony with the universe itself. This teaching became crucial during the soul's final judgment. According to Egyptian belief, every person eventually entered the Hall of Judgment. There, they stood before Osiris, the ruler of the underworld, the king who had conquered death. Beside him stood Anubis, guardian of the dead, and Thoth, recorder of divine judgment. At the center of the hall stood a great scale. On one side rested the heart of the deceased. On the other rested the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of truth. Every action, every decision, every lie, and every kindness, all were reflected in the heart. If the heart balanced with the feather, the soul could enter eternal paradise. But if the heart proved heavy with wrongdoing, it faced destruction. This ceremony became known as the weighing of the heart, and it was one of the most powerful images in Egyptian religion. For initiates of the Osirian Mysteries, this judgment was not merely symbolic. It was real. The rituals taught people how to prepare for that moment, how to live in balance, how to master fear, and how to achieve spiritual purity. The mysteries also used powerful symbols. Among them was the Ankh, the famous Egyptian symbol of life. To many people today, it appears simple, but ancient initiates likely viewed it as a key to understanding eternal existence. Another important symbol was the Eye of Horus, representing protection, healing, and spiritual awareness. Throughout Egyptian temples, these symbols appeared repeatedly, not simply as decorations, but as reminders of deeper truths hidden beneath the surface. The temples themselves reinforced these lessons. Visitors moved through a carefully designed spiritual journey. Bright outer courtyards represented the ordinary world. Dark inner chambers represented mystery and transformation. The deeper one traveled into the temple, the closer one came to sacred knowledge. Only priests and advanced initiates could enter the holiest areas. These restricted spaces symbolized the hidden realms of existence beyond human perception. Some scholars believe initiates experienced ceremonies designed to simulate death itself. Not physical death, but symbolic death. The death of ignorance, the death of fear, the death of attachment to the material world. Only by passing through symbolic death could spiritual rebirth occur. This idea formed the very foundation of the Osirian Mysteries. Just as Osiris died and rose again, the initiate symbolically followed the same path. Death, transformation, rebirth. The journey promised something extraordinary. Not simply survival after death, but spiritual evolution, a chance to become something greater than before. Perhaps this explains why the mysteries remained so influential for centuries. They offered more than rituals. They offered meaning, purpose, and hope. Hope that existence continued beyond the grave. Hope that justice ultimately prevailed. And hope that every human being possessed a divine potential waiting to be awakened. But as Egypt entered a new age of foreign invasions and changing beliefs, the world of Osiris would face its greatest challenge. The temples would eventually fall silent. The priests would disappear. And the mysteries themselves would begin fading into legend. Yet their influence would not disappear completely. The pyramids still stood. The temples still towered above the Nile. But the world that created the Osirian Mysteries was beginning to disappear. Foreign armies entered Egypt. Ancient traditions faced new challenges. And the priests who guarded the secrets of Osiris knew that their civilization would never be the same again. Yet somehow, the mystery survived. Not in the way you might expect, but through ideas that would outlive the pharaohs themselves. By the late periods of Egyptian history, the cult of Osiris had become one of the most influential religious traditions in the ancient world. Millions believed in his promise, the promise that death was not the end, the promise that the soul could achieve eternal life. For centuries, priests preserved sacred rituals inside temples across Egypt. Generation after generation passed down hidden teachings. The mysteries remained protected, but political power was changing. Foreign empires began conquering Egyptian territory. The Assyrians arrived. The Persians followed. Later came the Greeks under Alexander the Great. Each conquest transformed Egypt, yet the worship of Osiris endured. In fact, many foreign rulers became fascinated by Egyptian religion. The Greeks were especially interested. They encountered ancient temples filled with symbols, rituals, and teachings unlike anything they had known before. Some Greek writers described Egypt as a source of ancient wisdom, a land where sacred knowledge had been preserved for thousands of years. As Greek and Egyptian cultures mixed, the influence of Osiris spread beyond the Nile Valley. Ideas about spiritual transformation, judgment after death, and rebirth began appearing in various mystery traditions throughout the Mediterranean world. While historians debate the exact connections, the similarities are difficult to ignore. Secret initiations, sacred journeys, symbolic death and rebirth, the search for eternal life. Themes once central to the Osirian Mysteries now appeared far beyond Egypt's borders. Then came Rome. As Roman influence expanded, Egypt became part of a vast empire. Ancient temples continued operating for a time, but the old world was changing rapidly. New religions emerged. Old traditions weakened. The power of the priesthood declined. Eventually, many temples closed. Sacred ceremonies stopped, and the ancient mystery schools faded into history. Thousands of years of tradition seemed to vanish. Yet not everything was lost. Temple walls survived. Hieroglyphics remained carved into stone. Ancient texts endured beneath desert sands. And the legend of Osiris continued inspiring future generations. Perhaps the greatest reason for the survival of these ideas is that they address questions every civilization asks. What happens after death? Does the soul survive? Can human beings achieve something beyond ordinary existence? The Osirian Mysteries offered answers to these timeless questions. That is why their influence proved so powerful. Even after the priests disappeared, the questions remained, and so did the fascination. Today, archaeologists continue uncovering new evidence related to the cult of Osiris. Hidden chambers, ancient inscriptions, temple complexes buried for centuries. Each discovery reveals another fragment of a tradition that once shaped one of the greatest civilizations in history. But many secrets remain hidden. What exactly happened during the deepest initiations? What knowledge was shared only among the highest-ranking priests? And how much information disappeared forever when the temples fell silent? No one knows. Perhaps those answers were lost long ago. Or perhaps they still wait beneath the sands of Egypt, waiting to be discovered. For thousands of years, priests guarded the Osirian Mysteries. Empires rose and fell. Kings came and went. Temples were buried beneath the sands. Yet one question has survived until today. What was the true secret of the Osirian Mysteries? And why did an entire civilization dedicate itself to preserving these teachings? The deeper historians investigate the Osirian Mysteries, the more they realize something remarkable. The mysteries were never simply about worshipping a god. They were about understanding existence itself. To the ancient Egyptians, Osiris represented far more than the ruler of the dead. He represented hope. The hope that life continues beyond death. The hope that justice exists beyond the physical world. And the hope that every human being can be transformed. At the center of every ritual stood a simple but powerful message. Nothing truly ends. The sun disappears every evening and returns at dawn. The Nile floods and retreats. Seeds die beneath the soil and grow again. Nature itself seemed to follow a cycle of death and rebirth. Osiris became the symbol of that eternal cycle. His story taught that death was not destruction. It was transformation. This belief shaped nearly every aspect of Egyptian civilization. Their tombs, their temples, their mummification practices, their sacred texts. Everything pointed toward a single goal, preparing the soul for eternity. For initiates, the Osirian Mysteries were a journey of personal transformation. The ceremonies symbolized leaving behind fear and ignorance. The initiate entered darkness, faced symbolic death, and emerged spiritually reborn, just as Osiris had done. Whether these rituals involved secret teachings, sacred dramas, or hidden ceremonies, their purpose appears to have been the same: to help people overcome humanity's greatest fear, the fear of death. And perhaps that is why the mysteries became so powerful, because every civilization asked the same questions. What happens when life ends? Is there something beyond this world? And does human existence have a deeper meaning? The Osirian Mysteries offered answers, not through logic, not through science, but through faith, symbolism, and spiritual experience. Today, many details remain lost. Ancient libraries vanished. Temples were destroyed. Countless scrolls disappeared. The priests succeeded in taking many of their secrets with them. Yet enough evidence survives to reveal the heart of the mystery. It was never about hidden treasure, never about supernatural powers, and never about secret conspiracies. The greatest secret was a belief that life continues, that transformation is possible, and that death is not the end of the journey. Thousands of years later, the story of Osiris still fascinates the world. Archaeologists continue searching for clues. New discoveries emerge from the sands of Egypt every year, and the mysteries continue inspiring people across the globe. Because even today, humanity is still searching for the same answers that ancient initiates sought inside those sacred temples. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden world of ancient Egypt, be sure to subscribe to Mystery of the Ancients and turn on notification for more stories about lost civilizations, forgotten gods, hidden temples, ancient secrets, and the greatest mysteries ever buried beneath the sands of time. The past is full of secrets, and we've only just begun uncovering them.